So, good morning, everyone. I am Dave Cowan, founder and CEO of Silicon Valley Sales Group. I am one of the organizers behind Modern Ideas for Business, and I will be your moderator today. So, our mission with Modern Ideas for Business is really to enable business leaders to solve the multifaceted challenges they face and find opportunities presented by changes in the economy and in our political and legal landscapes and social trends at work and in the markets that they serve. So we really strive to empower those business leaders with the knowledge, skills, networks, and actionable insights necessary to navigate the complexities in the modern business world and to achieve sustainable business success. The other organizers of Modern Ideas for Business include our speaker today, Ed Correa, founder and president of Sagacent Technologies, a global leader in cybersecurity solutions and digital risk management. Paul, a commercial banker for over 25 years, and now an expert loan consultant, serving small and medium-sized businesses looking for the methods and means to fund their growth. And Jaco Grobel, our CEO of Broad Vision Marketing, developing and executing inbound marketing strategies that enable clients to consistently create more sales-ready prospects. So we started Modern Ideas for Business with the goal of creating an interactive forum where business leaders can learn from experts in a variety of fields, ask questions, and share their thoughts and opinions on the topic of the day. So during today's webinar, feel free to come off of mute and ask questions or offer your thoughts and opinions. We'll also be monitoring chat if you want to ask questions there. So with that, let me introduce our speaker today, Ed Correa. Ed is founder and CEO of Sagacent Technologies, a 24-year-old IT management and cybersecurity firm focused on risk reduction, particularly for data security, business continuity, and regulatory compliance. Really, the highest praise I can offer for Ed's cybersecurity experience and expertise is the fact that in over 25 years of providing cybersecurity solutions and services, not one of Ed's clients has suffered a major data breach or had to pay ransomware. And in 2024, Sagacent was ranked number 58 of the top 501 managed services firms globally by Channel Futures. So Ed is uniquely qualified to share his thoughts on the current state of cybersecurity and the challenges business leaders face in terms of fending off threats to their data security. So with that, Ed, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Let's share the PowerPoint. Dave, can you see that all right?
Yes, I can.
Cool. Let's do that. So it's 10:04, and we definitely want to have everybody out of here by 11. So I'm going to try and be very conscious of our time and see how things go.
Oh, good.
By the way, we are picking up some audio in the background from folks. So if you could please make sure you're muted. I've tried to mute everyone, but we are getting some background audio. So I'd appreciate that. Anyway, so today's discussion is cybersecurity risks and remedies. This is a presentation I've done many times before, but I've changed it up quite a bit because I wanted to reflect the realities of today. A key concept here is right under our title. It isn't if you get hacked.
So it is a spinal tap?
Dave, if you can do something to mute those folks, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Unfortunately, Ed, I don't have the power to do that.
And I don't from my position, so we'll try and continue. Anyway, from the FBI, they've made a statement that it isn't if you get hacked, it's when you get hacked. And I think it's an attitude that all business owners should accept. And if you are assuming that it isn't, that if you assume that you are going to be hacked, it's going to force you to put things in place to mitigate the damage when the worst happens.
I'm only
So this is a key
for
concept
2
here.
weeks, so that's the only time I really can't do it.
Wow. I'm going to take this off and see what I can do for
time frame for each time I come in. How many hours is what I'm trying to say.
I think I found it. Good. Sorry about that, folks. So let's get going. Some of the myths and realities in cybercrime is the belief I won't get hacked. Hackers aren't interested in me. Hackers don't know who you are. Cybercrime affects everybody, and it is very rare that hackers ever target a specific victim. They almost always break in first, and then they see how can they monetize the opportunity. It's an important concept. There's the mistaken belief we only use the best products that already have security built in. Yes, security may be built into things, but there is no perfect product. And certainly if you're making the assumption that some of the companies you're using in the cloud are secure, think again, because almost all of them have been hacked at some point in time. And finally, our employees won't fall for those silly social attacks or emails or phone calls. Well, depending on the survey that's out there, it's argued that 74 to 85% of all successful breaches occurred because somebody did fall for one of those silly attacks. So we need to change our assumptions, assume that we will be hacked, and assume that we frankly decide that we're going to do everything we can to invest in our people so that we lower our risk. Today's talk has 5 sections. So we're going to go over the numbers, what's happening in cybercrime. So these are very new. If you've seen this talk before, these weren't presented before. We're going to talk about some of the recent attacks and what we can learn. And the attacks that I've chosen are all specifically here to make a point. We're going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. There's a lot of promise there, but there's a bit of peril as well. And I'm really worried about any business that does this, implements this incorrectly. I'm going to emphasize some key takeaways people should think about. And at the end, I'll give you my prescription for mitigating risks, not only for businesses, but for individuals as well. So I've got a slide there for that. So let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Cybercrime and damages. Cybercrime globally has reached $8 trillion in US dollars. Again, I want to emphasize that I believe that these numbers are underreported. So I think that the problem is much bigger. Cybercrime is growing at a rate of about 15% per year. And you can see the future is looking pretty bleak as this gets worse and worse. And this is just a reflection of we need technology to conduct business. And these hackers or bad actors, they just want to monetize the opportunity. They want to get rich wherever they can and separate money. But at $8 trillion, I think it's kind of important to think about in terms of global GDP. If we were to map out $8 trillion as a gross domestic product in nation states, Japan and Germany are dwarfed by that. It's less than China and less than the US, but we're talking about a lot of money. And this is not going to get any less. It's going to continue to grow. Another point, password attacks. Microsoft says that the password attacks, this is people trying predominantly to use passwords as a way of breaking in to their cloud applications, grew tenfold just from 2022 to 2023. And that's just insane. Before 2018, hacking was bad, but it hadn't reached epidemic proportions. It now has. It's affecting everyone. Also, Microsoft stated that for all the email compromises of their hosted email account last year, 99.9% of those accounts that had been compromised lacked multi-factor authentication. And when I'm talking to business owners about what they need to do, it is amazing how much I get back I get on MFA. Oh, it's too inconvenient. I don't want to do it. Well, this one slide shows that if we do implement MFA, we're going to be able to thwart an awful lot of attacks. One of my absolute favorite cyber reports, and there's several dozens of these that come out per year, is the Verizon DBIR, Database Incident Response Report. Comes out every year. They've been doing this for about 15, 17 years range. And it's a multi-hundred-page report. I'm not going to go everything, but I took 6 or 7 key points that I want to draw and share. Who are the attackers? Well, we've got organized crime looking like they're doing just shy of 70% of the attacks. End users. This is a really important takeaway. End users are your employees are responsible for about 30% of the data breaches. And these might, if you're thinking about somebody taking your data and selling it, that might be on the extreme side, but they also might do small, less damaging things like just take your client list and then try and solicit the business directly. But when we're talking about end users getting access to data, nearly 30% of the time, it's that they're getting access to things that they shouldn't have access to. Others are just different classifications of different groups, and states or state affiliated hackers. These guys are usually going after very specific targets. They usually don't go after normal businesses. They're much more interested in infrastructure systems, power, water, treatment plants, stuff like that. And they're getting very good at their hacking. But let's look over here at some of the findings. These are 3 of the top attack methods that they like to do. Microsoft called out passwords. Yes, credentials are a very successful ways for the hackers to attack. Just under 40% now. Phishing is a great way of getting in because you send out enough of these, and if a small percentage of people click on them and give you their password, they're in. This exploiting of vulnerabilities, this one has grown. It grew about 3-fold in 2023 over 2022. When we say exploiting vulnerabilities, this is where the hackers are leveraging known problems that exist in systems to get in. So a lot of people would say, well, how would I ever know about that? Well, you need a good, competent IT company that's looking for those, getting the reports on a daily basis, and then swinging into action and doing that. But here's something you can do for yourself, particularly if you're a small sole proprietor. If you're running any operating system that isn't being patched regularly, Windows XP, that's gone. Windows 8.1, that's gone. Even Windows 10, which is the predominant operating system out there, that's being phased out next year. When the service period for any hardware or software ends and you're no longer getting patches or updates, there's a supreme vulnerability in that. So the exploiting vulnerabilities is when the hackers find out about the unpatched opportunities and then they just attack them. If you've minimized your attack surface so that they can't get in by only running software that's only using vendor software where that vendor is constantly keeping it up to date, you're minimizing your risk greatly. So exploited vulnerabilities is going to continue to grow. Here's a couple interesting charts. These 4 here are talking about other ways that hackers are getting in and the impact that they're having. So we're seeing 68% of the breaches. By the way, this Verizon report is the results of an analysis of 10,000 breaches over 2023. But 68% of those breaches involved a human element, usually somebody who maybe clicked something and let the hackers in and disclose their password. 32% involved ransomware or extortion. And here's the difference between the 2 of those. Ransomware, they encrypt your data on your computers. They leave the computers running, but you have no access to your own data. Extortion is usually where they copy confidential data and they say, and they threaten you and they say, we will not release this to the dark web if you pay us. Extortion is a preferred way for the hackers to attack because they don't have to offer help desk services and help you unencrypt your systems. Aren't they nice? But believe me, they're just going to figure out what's the best way of extorting money out of you. Breaches involving errors. Now, the errors are kind of interesting because when I read in the report, a significant number of these errors were, again, human in nature. Many of them were IT people who had failed to patch things correctly. Altogether, you're talking about, when you add up the 68% and the 28%, you're talking about a lot of successful breaches because of people. And 15% of the breaches involved third parties. So again, if you're thinking about a third party that you pay for the software or something like that, getting hit, that is growing in occurrences. I'll give you a heads up that that's coming in when I start talking about some of the examples. This chart I included is because it's the top 3 attack vectors: credentials, phishing, and exploiting vulnerabilities. I want you to see how from 2020 to 2022 to 2024, how they changed over times. Hackers are not static. As we get better defending one area, they shift to another. It's really important. Ransomware and extortions over time. So again, I often tell people around 2018 is when this started going crazy, and I had to change my business. But it's grown, and you'll notice how big things got right about the time of the pandemic. There's no coincidence there. Businesses started leveraging more technology that they hadn't done because of the pandemic. They started sending more people to work from home. I've seen very few cases where they ever locked down the home workers correctly. And as a result, the occurrences of attacks and successful breaches exploded. So another key point for you to take with you. Also, looking at the difference between external attackers, yes, close to 75, 80%, but internal hackers is a significant amount. This just means that your data needs to be locked down and only people who should have access to it can get access to it. Also, supply chain, again, a foreshadowing of my breaches that I'm going to share with you, is growing tremendously. So we'll talk about defining supply chains in a minute. So now we're going to talk about those recent attacks. I've got three for you. So AT&T in 2023, they identified some of their data was on the dark web. Most of you probably don't search the dark web to see if your data is for sale there. AT&T does, and they found it. That data included people's social security numbers, passcodes, names, addresses, phone numbers, a lot of information for over 70 million current clients and former clients. This is an example of a supply chain breach. This is a vendor whose clients trust them. They've got confidential data, and by them getting breached, your data is exposed and allowed to get out there. If you have confidential data about your clients, how might they feel if this happened to you? Because then it would be another supply chain. They're trusting you, you're providing services. How would they feel if you, in your stewardship of their data, didn't do a good job? Here's another one. This is Change Healthcare. And they usually disclosures of hacks happen months, sometimes years after the actual hack. But last February, they announced that they'd been breached. The IT systems were shut down because the hackers infected all their systems with ransomware. As a result, pharmacies, hospitals, stuff like that, they could not operate because, well, I'll skip the because. They paid $22 million in ransom. Here's what I want you to take away from this. It's bad enough you got breached, but you didn't assume you would be breached, and they didn't put systems in place to where they could operate again if they were. This is crucial. So it's another supply chain breach where you're the health provider to a lot of people. They didn't have adequate security, but they also failed. And this is the part that I fault you more than getting the attack or falling victim of the attack, because not putting things in place that allow you to operate again in a reasonable amount of time, that's inexcusable today. You've got to be able to do that. Finally, CDK, this is big in the news right now. CDK supports over 15,000 car dealership companies. Many of those dealership companies have multiple dealerships under them. This is software that these organizations use to run their dealerships. It helps them with sales, service, parts, loan applications, and even processing car insurance. Their systems were hit in mid-June. To the most part, most of them are still down today. Very much like I said for Change Healthcare, you got breached. That was bad. But you didn't have things in place so you could resume operations, and they're just devastatingly affecting all these dealerships, these car dealerships, and many of them are talking about walking away and going to another provider. Again, the lesson learned here is if this were you, how would your customers feel? How would it affect you? This is what I want you to take away from these news stories. Artificial intelligence. I don't have extra slides here. I just have a title slide. And I'm working on a special presentation where I'm going to talk just about AI. But here's the thing. We've gotten to a point in technology where if you want to operate a professional organization, you have got to have technology. Unfortunately, most organizations deploy that technology and configure it incorrectly. As a result, there are serious vulnerabilities. My personal belief is within 3 to 5 years, given the speed of adoption of artificial intelligence, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be ubiquitous. Those companies that learn how to leverage artificial intelligence are going to be able to significantly outperform their competitors. I think that's pretty scary for the future. Most people right now are just dabbling in artificial intelligence, and that's fine. But here's the dangerous part. Because most people deploy technology wrong, there are AI tools in the cloud that only get access to the data you upload to them. And there's many, many cases that have been documented where people have uploaded confidential information into ChatGPT or Copilot or whatnot. Once you've uploaded it, that data is no longer yours. It's now, if you read the small print, it's the ownership has shifted to the AI company. And anything you upload to them can be used in future queries and given to anybody. So that confidential information is rather important. It shouldn't be going into these things. Very soon, you're going to see a lot of people implementing AI tools on their systems. All the new computers, it's in the marketing, contain AI chipsets and stuff like that. So you can run the AI on your own computers. You don't have to upload it. Here's the problem with that. If you haven't segregated your data, if you haven't said this data is off limits to the AI, this data is okay for the AI to access, you could get in some real worlds of hurt. Here's an example. Sally is upset after her last employment review or a performance review. And she decides to find out what other people in the company are using. In this scenario, the company had not put up firewalls between data or designated what was to be searchable by AI and what wasn't. And she can find what everybody's paid or find all the employment reviews for all the employees. We'll pick on a fictitious person named Ted who decides to go after the company's IP and take it with him to his next job. AI is going to have a lot of benefits for businesses, but it is not without risk. In the IT world, we call this data governance. It's where we're making sure that only the people who are authorized the data can get access to the data. And AI should be treated as an employee, and you definitely want to indicate or tag the data that it's okay for AI to access or not. You can't just go lightly into this good night. So anyway, AI, double-edged sword, a lot of promise and a lot of peril, especially if it's implemented incorrectly. Raheel, do you have a question? Dave, did he type in his question?
Nope, I don't see it in chat.
Let's see if I can take him off of mute. Raheel, can you speak now?
And he's asking my question.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I could unmute myself. Yes, sir. I do have a question, and my question is regarding if there are auto pay information with the business for their current clients, how to store that confidential, like credit card or payment information. That's the question that I have.
Absolutely. So in IT, we talk about encryption, that data must be encrypted at rest, in transit, and elsewhere. So first, you're going to want to have it in a secure area where it's always encrypted. Number two, in data governance, there are tools where we can tag that data to make it inaccessible. One of the things we do is role-based access, where only certain people within the organization have access, but in data governance, we actually go a step further, and that's where we're tagging it and saying it's excluded from the AI. Raheel, I'm happy to talk to you offline, but going any deeper into that is beyond the scope of this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on. So some of the key takeaways. So I've dumped a ton of data on you, but I'm hoping that that data helps you understand some of the things. Some of the key points is the weakest link is still human. Depending on the study or the report or the analysis, they'll say anywhere from 74 to 85% of successful breaches are because somebody fell for something. I was just reading a report last week, and they were saying 95%. So human is the weakest link. The big thing there is we've got to get training for those people so that they understand what not to do, and quite frankly, make them really aware that if they do X, Y, and Z, it could lead to really bad cases for the business. They need to be trained so they don't fall victim to email attacks, fraudulent phone calls, deep fake videos, and boy, are these going all over the place lately. And who knows what's tomorrow, because tomorrow they're going to leverage AI to come up with all new attacks that are very customized to specific people and harder to discern as fake. So scary. Training is your best friend. I always tell my clients, it's the best dollar you ever spent is training your people. How do hackers usually get in? They're going to tell you that they are someone you trust. They're going to warn you that you've been hacked. They want to create that sense of urgency, and they're going to threaten you that we're already in your systems, which is not always true, and that you need to pay them to go away. Again, training can go a long way here because then people don't fall for this as much. Most of the queries I get from our clients at our company are, hey, I just got this email. Is this a spam attack or is this a phishing attack? It doesn't really matter what it is as long as you identify it. But we always answer those because it helps educate those clients over time so they become harder to attack. And harvesting and the buying of previously compromised data is huge. There's a treasure trove of passwords collected from many years of hacks, and it's all been thrown into one big file, and it's for sale on the dark web right now. And we're talking millions and millions of passwords and credentials. Some people change their credentials, most don't. And so even if you didn't fall for something, some vendor or site that you trusted could be breached, as we saw with the 3 examples. And now your data has gotten out there on the dark web, making you more vulnerable. Let's see. Oh, do a screenshot of this if you've never done this. And especially, I know some Sagacent clients are on call. We do this for all clients. But if you haven't done this, if you go to haveibeenpwned.com, you can find out if any of the websites that you've used have with your confidential data on it have fallen victim to hackers, and that information is out there. I want to reiterate, this is similar to the slide I showed you earlier, but attacks vary with time. As we get stronger security in one area, they go to other areas that is less protected. So I keep telling my clients, I have to be right 1,000 times a day, every day for my clients. The hackers only have to get lucky once, and then they're in. And then if we go with the assumption that they will get in, we want to put things in place to mitigate the impact of their getting in and deny them access to the confidential data. Having an incident is survivable. Having a breach could be a very bad occurrence for your business. Most businesses I run into, they'd rather opt for convenience over security. I want to use my social media. I want to tell every secret about myself and put it out there. There is software out there that just gathers the data about you, and then they go and try and break into things. Knowing that many people will use a password based on a favorite dog or child's name, everything you put out there can be used against you. IoT is the Internet of Things. I keep seeing people who are putting door locks on their homes so that they can walk up to them with their phone and get in. Just a couple months ago, there was a major manufacturer of these door locks that discovered they had a vulnerability after hackers were already using that to get into homes. Scary stuff. Video cameras, many of them, the default password or credentials are never changed, and the hackers get in there so they can spy on you. Wireless systems, routers, everything, these are often vulnerable to attack. And because people buy the cheapest product they can get, it usually doesn't have the best security. Voice controlled devices, Amazon Alexa, TV, smartphones. If you're buying products with these and you have not specifically turned them off, assume that they're listening to everything you say and they're giving that information to marketers so that they can sell to you. And never store passwords in your browser. There are so many tools that can be just inserted into an email, and as soon as you open the email, it scans the browser for passwords and sends those passwords to the hacker. You've got to be using a really good password manager these days. Don't store the passwords in the browser.
Quick comment on that last slide about convenience.
Yes.
It's so funny to me that when you go to your bank and they prompt you for a password, they suggest things like using your pet's name or the city you were born in. Or now with multi-factor authentication, there's so many companies who say, well, if you don't want to use this the next time you log in, just click this button.
Remember my password for me.
Exactly. What's your comments on that?
I've used a story around this several times in the past, and I think this was 2016 when I decided I'd had enough of all these weak security measures. And I started looking at, well, who are the third parties that I'm using that have access to my financial data? And I went to all those financial entities and I said, look, I'm going to leave you and go to a different provider if you don't implement multi-factor authentication now. And none of the ones I was using at the time, back in 2016, had it. Suddenly, I learned that they had it. They just hadn't rolled it out to everybody, and I was put on other programs. I only had to leave 2 financial institutions, but the other ones I was able to stay at because they actually had it. You need to think about where your data is and lock it down. And God, when you see these stupid things that said, would you like to log in with your LinkedIn password or your Google password? No, every password should be unique for every different account. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. But convenience will destroy your security. Hope I addressed that.
No, that's great. It takes a little bit of discipline.
Yes. And it's a pain in the butt, but it's what we got to do today. The solution. So first of all, let's think about your house. Think about cybersecurity as your home. You've got lots of windows, you've got doors, points of egress, you've probably got systems in there that could allow for the monitoring. But to feel relatively safe in your home, you're going to make sure you've got locks on the doors, probably locks on the windows. I sure do. And at my home, I try to lock down any device that I buy that's here electronic in the house. I always change the credentials. I never leave them as default because hackers like to leverage that. We need to think about this in terms of your business. So most people think that IT products will just stop all problems. Wrong. And you're going to get lots of vendors, I'm not going to name them here, who like to tell you that they're going to provide security for your home or business. Wrong. These are the same guys who got hacked. No single product. I jumped ahead. So no single security product is perfect. This is a picture that I stole during the pandemic. I just love it. And if you think of security products as each being a slice of Swiss cheese, they all do something, but they're all vulnerable. Hopefully, with enough layers of this, we were able to keep the COVID virus from affecting us. So what we tried to do was multiple things. Security in a business is the same thing. So same picture, but now I've changed the slices of cheese to be passwords, long, complex, and unique. We'd be using multi-factor authentication on every account. I'm sorry, today, if you're doing a business with any account that doesn't do MFA, you should change that account or dump it. Don't use it. One of the things we love to do for our clients is we pre-authorize devices. That way, if the bad guy tries to come in with his own device, even if he has credentials, he can't get in. Endpoint detection and response, or EDR, this is the great-great-grandson of antivirus. It is significantly more advanced than AV. I don't think any business should be running antivirus anymore. You got to be running EDR. We also want to have intrusion detection systems that are running on the systems and let us know if the best of our security efforts were thwarted, if the bad guys got in. Continuous vulnerability scanning of every device, etc. You can look at this later, and I'm going to send out the slides. But this is a recipe for really robust security in a business. Now, I promised I was going to give you a prescription for how to secure yourself, whether you're a business or an individual. That's this slide. So I've got a column here for consumers or individuals or sole proprietors. You must have long, complex, unique passwords. You must be using multi-factor authentication. Even though I don't like VPNs anymore, VPNs or virtual private networks where it's encrypted in your data in transit. That's a really good idea if you're an individual, a consumer, a small sole proprietor. Yeah, firewalls are passe today. That's because most businesses have people working from all over the place. So we want to have a better solution than just firewalls. As long as everybody was working in the same building, we could have a firewall and filter all the data coming in and out. And so for a small individual, a firewall is great. But for bigger businesses, we're using software-defined networks. Similarly, the VPNs in businesses have been replaced by software-defined networks. Basically, the firewall has moved to the cloud, and any people accessing systems have to go through that system and be authenticated. Data backups, crucial for both groups. Businesses, it needs to be much more regimented and happening every day. But the smaller you are, the less frequent you may need those backups. Here at my home office, I'm looking over there at 2 backup systems I have running on everything in the home. I don't want to lose any data. But at a company, some of our clients have opted for backups that run every 5 minutes. So it depends on the impact of the business. You must be running supported software. That means it's still supported by the manufacturer and getting updates. Same thing with hardware, your computers. Typically, manufacturers of software and hardware do not continue to release updates forever. So as soon as these things, their life cycle has gotten old, they need to be replaced. So that's all pretty much the same except for software-defined networks. And it flips to the slide. I do want to make a call out for security awareness training. If you're an individual, you can make a decision if you want that or not. But I consider it, oh, come on. But I consider security awareness training essential for any business, basically of 5 or more people. Here's why. With every additional person working within a company, your risk skyrockets. So you're a company of 5 people, you got some risk. You're a company of 25 people, you got a lot more risk. You're a company of 100 people, it's through the roof. Your weakest link are your people. Security awareness training is essential today. And then the final recommendation on the recipe for security at a business is adopt a cybersecurity framework. If you're regulated and maybe you have to comply with SOC 2, or you work in the manufacture of products for the Department of Defense, you have to be CMMC. All of these frameworks are specific instruction guides on how you need to have your IT configured and how you need to be locked down. At Sagacent, several of our clients are regulated, and we have to use the specific methods to lock them down. But even for clients that are not regulated, we've adopted what's called the CIS from the Center of Internet Security, and it's 153 check boxes, and we make sure that those things are in place for our clients. But this is an important slide because if you're a consumer or sole proprietor and you follow that first column, your risk is going to drop significantly, probably from 100% down to around 15 or 20% likelihood. Some people are going to say, whoa, 15 or 20%, that's kind of high. Well, without spending more and doing more, we really can't get you more secure. Conversely, on the business side, if you followed all of those, we can get you down to about a 7% likelihood of being breached, which is much better than 100%. Anyway, I think that...
Before you conclude, based on this, I do have a question.
Fire away.
And I know it's different for every company, so I'll ask you maybe to talk in terms of percentages, but what's the incremental cost to do cybersecurity right? So for example, I have a client, they're probably doing $30 million in revenue. They're a manufacturing company, about 100 employees. I have no idea what their IT budget is today, but in your experience, what would an IT budget be for a company like that? And then if they hired you and needed to do security better, what's the incremental cost?
So one of the reasons we don't accept clients less than 20 employees is it's hard to aggregate the costs across smaller entities. So let's say you're a lawyer and you're a one-person shop. it's going to be costly because we have to implement all those slices of cheese for one person versus the more people you have, the easier that gets down to. But generally, it's about $200 to $250 for full IT support and system lockdown. The bigger the entity, our largest client is a global manufacturer doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year. They're closer to $350 a person per month. But that's all IT and cybersecurity. And it really goes beyond that because we try to put it all in a bucket of IT support, cybersecurity, and compliance. And the reason we did that is because IT done correctly to keep a client secure also addresses the compliance issue. So you may not need everything, but here's a little confession. Once upon a time, I was like 98% of all other IT companies. I would go out there and meet with an owner, and I would encourage them to let me do the things that we wanted to do. And occasionally they'd push back and say, I don't want to spend that money. And I would acquiesce. In 2018, when the hacking went crazy, we changed our attitude. All Sagacent clients have to let us lock them down. You don't have to go on steroids, but you do have to let us lock you down and mitigate your risk. Otherwise, you won't be one of my clients. I just don't have the personal strength to be able to sleep at night unless I know I've protected the clients.
Yeah, great point.
So if anybody wants to raise their hand and indicate to us that they've got a question, I'm very happy to answer your questions. There's one, Donna Lim. Let's allow Donna to talk.
Hey, Ed. So you said a term that I'm embarrassed to say I don't know anything about.
Sure.
What is EDR tools and what is the best one or a list? Where do I decide how to do it for a small business?
It's very hard to do it for a small business today. How many people in your company?
There's 5 of us.
That's what I was afraid of. So EDR is one of those things where it's not just a product to be implemented the way antivirus was. You'd set it and forget it. EDR has to be looked at every single day. And so they're not really putting EDR or endpoint detection and response out there for small entities that are not going to sign up with a managed security provider like us.
Got it.
Now, just so you understand, the difference between EDR and antivirus. Antivirus would look for a string of code in something that was already predefined as being bad, and then would say, we got something that's bad. EDR does that, but its real value is it looks at heuristics. It looks at the behavior of the application. Sometimes you'll download malware, you'll put it on your computer, and it will sit there like a seed doing nothing for months. And then one day it germinates and opens and starts spreading through the system. Creates a fictitious user and gives it admin rights, starts looking across the network for access to other things. EDR will spot this. This is why it's so important. And it's one of the reasons that the hackers had to change their tactics, because we got so much better about protecting the individual computers.
So
go ahead.
So as I'm a small business owner, I support small business owners. What do small business owners do if they're not in the line of having an EDR?
So, well, there's still a lot of things on my list. Again, think about Swiss cheese. There's a lot of things you could implement anyway.
So do all the other parts of the Swiss cheese. And then as you grow, know that you're going to go into a managed system that has an EDR tool.
Yes. So, and frankly, I'm going to go back to my Swiss cheese here. I truly believe that many of these products are going to come down to the consumer level so that small businesses like you can take advantage of it. Right now, as a small business, if you're not working with a security provider like us, you've got to do it all yourself. And the intrusion detection system, you got to look at it every day for every device. The continuous vulnerability, you got to be waiting for it to raise its hand and say, well, there's an alert here, and deal with it. People mistakenly think that we just implement a lot of software and then everything's good. No, I have to have people with butts and seats who are looking at this across all clients every day. And it is amazing how noisy these applications are because they're identifying all the things all the time. Happily, most of the time, that they're not real. They're just an alert, but we're going, oh, that's not terrible, but it does give us an idea of something else that has to be patched. But I truly believe that some people are going to start rolling this out to individuals that are smaller. There are some smaller managed service providers now that are providing EDR on a case-by-case basis. I don't know how well they monitor it on a daily basis, though, given the prices they're trying to charge. But you and I can talk offline. Anyway, you're welcome. Did I miss any other questions?
We have one more question, I think, from Raheel.
Raheel, I think you're unmuted.
Hi.
Oh, it's
Hi, Ed. So I have a question with regards to recommendations for password manager for consumers because I'm working for in behalf of my mother, and she has a small business, and she kept all of her information in the browser, all the passwords for her financial institutions and such. So I just wanted to make sure that I'll be able to help her with that. So can you tell us anything?
There are a lot of good ones out there. 1Password is a great consumer password manager. Bitwarden is a great consumer password manager. I used to love a lot LastPass. I thought it was extremely powerful, but I no longer recommend LastPass because they've been hacked 3 times. Their company allowing the hackers access to people's data. So I don't recommend that. What else? If you go to any browser like Google and type in top-rated password managers, you'll see a list. But you'll see the main ones that'll be there: LastPass, which I do not recommend, Bitwarden, 1Password. There's a number. But in fact, I've been doing a test the last few months of this year where I've been getting one after another and testing it. And to a consumer, any of these would be a good choice. I tend to be really picky and I want lots of features, which are sometimes missing because I'm thinking on a more corporate level. But I hope that answers your question, Janine. We're doing good on time. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Raheel. I have one question, please.
Sure.
In the start of the webinar, you shared that there was a big award that Sagason achieved on world global level. Can you please talk about that, and what's the criteria and how did Sagason get there? And I think that would be great help.
Well, in our 24 and a half years, we've gotten over 35 awards. Last year, I didn't think it would ever get any better than being number 167 in the world as far as a security company. But this year, we were awarded number 58 in the top 501 IT providers on the planet. That one came from an organization called Channel Futures, and they look at a lot of, frankly, they look at the whole industry, but then they scrutinize the companies and they look at performance and what you're doing, and they ask you a lot of questions about how you're securing the clients. And we've been on that list 9 times in the 17 years they've been doing the contest. We've never finished as well as we did this year, being number 58. And quite honestly, most of the companies on that list are multifold bigger than us, and often backed by venture capitalists and stuff like that. Sagason is funded by the Bank of Ed. We're just a 25-person company. It's amazing to me that we finished as well, but we did. So anyway, there's your answer.
Hey, Ed, I know a great loan consultant you can talk to about funding your growth and expansion. By the way, there's a question from Suzanne Bales in the chat. I think she's asking about what's the LastPass for businesses? Well, I should say 1Password for businesses. What do you recommend for businesses to manage employee passwords?
Well, see, that's where it gets a little more tricky. For businesses, we go to password managers that allow us as the IT management company to see, is every employee that they have an account on this? Are they using it? I can't see individual passwords, but I can see, oh, that Dave Cowan, he's using the same password on 37 accounts. But I can see that they're breaking the rules. So for businesses, we want a password manager where everybody can use the same thing and we can enforce the usage of it. LastPass was one that I would have recommended in the past, but no longer. At Sagacent, we use one specific one, and that's just included in the service. So
We have one more person with their hand up, so this will be the last question, and then we'll bring it to a close.
who's that person?
Says Raheel. Is that Raheel or
Well, I'm going to unmute. Oh, trying to unmute.
the hand went down? So maybe we addressed it.
Oh,
Yes, we addressed it. Thank you.
so for everybody else who's here, we're going to be sending out a PDF copy of the PowerPoint. For all attendees, you are welcome to contact me one-on-one if you have any questions. I love to help people, and it's why I started doing this. Nothing sadder than somebody whose blood, sweat, and tears is spent on a business only to have these darn hackers take it away from you. You know, I feel very proud about the work we do, but if you have questions, reach out. I'll be glad to answer them.
And for everyone, I want to also thank you for your attendance, your participation, the great engagement and questions that we had. And I'll encourage you to go to modernideasforbusiness.com. This year, we're doing these webinars once every other month. And our next speaker will be on September 12th, talking about capturing competitive advantage with AI with Dr. Carrie Beam. So that should be another great presentation. Following that, we'll have Clint Tripaldi talking about strategy and making strategy a habit in your business. So I encourage you to go and register for those now, and know that in 25 we're going to webinars every month. So please come back, please visit us again and share this with your friends and colleagues.
Thanks, folks. Have a great day.
To get the full slide deck and to see our library of other presentations, visit modernideasforbusiness.com. That's modernideasforbusiness.com. Be sure to share, like, or subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.